All right, we should be live. Let's
Should be
see.
live.
Come in, come in, come in. Oh, you know what? I have to keep on doing my private, my Facebook to public. It's doing that thing that the StreamYard was doing a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I fixed it earlier, but this one I have to go in and change. But I see you're live. Okay, there we go. I need to turn the volume down.
I heard that.
Yeah. Shoot.
I tell you what, since we started doing this, I started learning all this stuff on my daughter's computer.
That's good though. I'm saying like, we're learning. We're getting good at this, man. Here we go. Okay, edit privacy. Public. Okay, now it should be public on my profile. That's so annoying that it does that.
Can you hear my fan? Like, is it
Uh-uh.
picking up the background noise? Okay.
I don't see. Okay, so the chat I can bring up here. All right. There we go. Yeah, that overlay does not look good whenever we're on TikTok.
What color do you associate with the number 8?
What color do you associate with the number 8?
Red.
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 Yeah.
You.
Dad, don't ask me later. Ask me later. Because I don't want to be like,
Is he doing like some sort of psychology thing?
yeah, like he just came up with it the other day.
So, what are we going to find out about us?
I don't know. That's what yeah. I think he's going to put in like GPT and just see what it says after he compiles everything. Like he's been asking everybody he works with and everything. Hey, Logan.
Hey? Welcome to Jen and Miss T time.
The bish.
The Tea Queens.
This really, I mean, looking at our live on TikTok, it looks really cool.
I haven't
Like
got there yet. I've been sharing the YouTube live stream.
I mean, that looks good.
Yeah, let me get on over there.
Purple.
Oh, I gotta go. Hold on. Let me go hit the Facebooks.
Lego Buster is my favorite Fortnite username.
Well, okay, hi. Okay, let's see.
Okay, here we go. It's a good idea that we went live now so we could share it before they start.
Yeah, because for you folks that don't know, when you go live and you're on multiple platforms, it takes a good 10, 15 minutes to share.
Yeah.
Y'all share it too. Share the love.
Share it, share.
Got to figure out what's next for Louisianans.
I really hope. I still can't get over that hearing. I mean, that's the
Same.
worst hearing I've ever seen in my life.
Same.
I'd be so mad if I was in there in Indiana.
There too. But you mean Louisiana?
Yeah. What'd I say?
You said Indiana.
Oh, I'm like doing way too much at one time, I suppose. Oh, I don't have this turned down.
Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks for subscribing, Chris.
Thank you. Hand pink waving. That's cool. I know
We're
it's
gonna.
probably doing that, but it's
Oh yeah.
man, you ever accidentally type what you're saying or say what you're typing when you're trying to do them at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me. Okay, yeah, it does look good on screen.
Yeah.
Hi, Christina. I have to be physically in TikTok to see y'all's comments on there. We won't be able to see it on screen like or over here on our chat. I don't know why Restream does that, but I'm just happy that we've been able to figure out how to live stream on YouTube on a TikTok.
Yeah. Hey, Jen. Hey.
Jen, what's up? Hey, Christine.
Hey, Christine.
Now, welcome everyone. We're just going
Oh,
to let people populate onto the webinar here. So just give us 1 minute. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone. My name is Matt Caddo with the American Kratom Association. Thank you for joining this webinar tonight under these circumstances. Fairly unique in that we have never had a ban since Rhode Island back in 2017. And we're going to discuss a little bit about why that condition exists as we get into this discussion. But we wanted tonight to be a discussion about how we can effectively respond as best we can in order to try to convince the governor that there is a good basis for him to veto this bill and to consider appointing an independent commission that would look at the safety profile of kratom so that we would get a fair evaluation from the science about what the actual circumstances are. And so we'll discuss that a little bit too. I know it's late for some of you. I saw some of the complaints on the Facebook chat boards, and there's no perfect time ever for these kinds of meetings, but we deeply appreciate everyone that's here. And let me just give a shout out to Misty and Jennifer for their live streaming this event. We will post the recording of this event so that people can share it. Some of the strategies that we're going to discuss do involve the active recirculation of this information and appeal for people to help us. But I know that Misty and Jennifer have really put some extraordinary effort into getting the infrastructure set up so that this can be live streamed. And that, of course, expands our reach to potentially a lot more people that otherwise wouldn't be joining in this particular platform. Uh, One piece of great news before we get started here in discussing Louisiana is twofold. In the state of Rhode Island, our good friend and our champion there, the Speaker Pro Tem of the Rhode Island House of Representatives, Brian Patrick Kennedy, who just a few weeks ago underwent a quadruple heart bypass. He, for the first day since that surgery, was on the House floor, and he was the prime sponsor and spoke about the importance of passing the repeal of the existing ban in Rhode Island and replacing it with the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. And while we have negotiated with the governor over the past year in order to get to a piece of legislation that he would support and not veto, we still had substantial detractors in the form of a pharmacist who's a member there, and of course, all of the cast of characters that we have come to expect and understand are going to complain about this in the addiction recovery community because they obviously view Kratom to be a competitor to their particular reimbursement stream for the FDA approved drugs that are used in those addiction recovery centers for people to rehabilitate. And that's just a financial incentive. But what are you going to do? But when the vote came down, it was 40 to 23, despite that strong opposition. And now it is going over to the Rhode Island Senate, where we expect to get a similar action. And without any amendments to that bill, the governor has committed to sign it because he was an active participant along with the departments in the government there in Rhode Island who actually participated in their input into the language of the bill. So this is one of those situations where if we were going to look at it objectively, it would not be the way that we would want this bill written, but it is sufficiently protective of Kratom consumers and lifts the ban that we wholeheartedly support it and look forward to its passage and eventual signing by the governor. And that, of course, will excuse me, be a great step forward for us and offsetting potentially what has happened here in the state of Louisiana. We have not had, as I mentioned earlier, a ban that's been enacted by any state in the United States on Kratom since Rhode Island did it in 2017. And they did it at the behest of the FDA with the disinformation that the FDA was circulating at that time, encouraging all states to enact bans. And only 6 took the bait on that and actually completed it. But it's obviously something that it was extremely disappointing for us, despite our best efforts. And when you look at the way this played out, both in the Senate hearings, in the House hearings, and then on the floor debate, there is no question that the premise for this legislation is being driven by the same kinds of disinformation that Dr. Brett Giroir at the Department of Health and Human Services identified when he formally withdrew the FDA's second recommendation for scheduling under the Federal Controlled Substances Act in 2018. And it's significant to note that the very same criteria for scheduling that is embraced by the Federal Controlled Substances Act is mirrored word for word in the Louisiana Controlled Substances Act. And so this was a political decision, not one based on science. And it was deeply disappointing to see the evaluation and the active participation by the Louisiana Department of Health when they are supposed to be the vanguard of science. And yet they fell into the same kind of narrative that we have seen the FDA at the federal level do for so many years. And so very disappointing, of course, that happened. And I would also note that we have done a transcript of the floor debate in the House of Representatives and the colloquies that occurred between members that were asking questions of the sponsor and comments that were made and the discussion on our amendments. And I can tell you that if the governor listens carefully, he will know that the basis upon which this legislation was passed was predicated on that same kind of embarrassingly poor evidence and data that Dr. Jawad described, and a failure to consider the overall public health. They have criminalized 325,000 plus Louisiana residents who are kratom consumers with this action. And so obviously it is something that is of deep concern to us here at the American Kratom Association. We did everything that we could possibly do to try to influence these decisions. And I will tell you that the Global Kratom Coalition and the Botanicals for Better Health and Wellness worked in concert with us to attempt to thwart this effort. But this thing was baked from the start, and we obviously didn't have much of an opportunity to have input in the process the way that it was ramrodded through. That being said, we have a couple of options. One is that we can take legal action to litigate this. It is a very narrow pathway to do that, where the courts would generally not favor trying to override a legislative decision. But if there are ways that we can analyze that procedurally there were errors made, then the opportunity might exist for there to be a TRO filed and subsequent evaluation of the legislation that might help us. But that's something we're exploring. It is a very risky and a very expensive process to go through. But we're talking here about a ban for those 325,000 plus people that if we have to protect them and can protect them, we ought to try every avenue. We have currently at the kratomprotectors.org/Louisiana website a petition that is up where we're asking the governor to veto this bill, and we will provide to him the basis for doing so. Now, the issue at hand is that the governor had the bill delivered to his desk this afternoon. He technically has 10 days before he either has to sign it in order for it to become law, or he has to not sign it and allow it to become law without his signature, or veto it. But that's the length of time that is the maximum time he could sign that bill tonight, and we would be essentially cooked. But we've got to assume that there'll be some evaluation by the governor of what the correct policy decision would be as to whether he signs this bill, despite the overwhelming vote in favor of it in the legislature, which obviously is going to be a factor that the governor will consider. But we want to get as many signatories on this petition. If we have 25,000 or 40,000, that would not be enough. We've got to emphasize to everybody in our network to please sign this petition asking the governor to veto this bill, and we will deliver that petition along with our analysis of the floor debate and outlining exactly what the deficiencies were in terms of the information that was provided to the legislators upon which they based their vote to ban kratom. And we hope that that will be persuasive to the governor. We also plan, and this is something that we need some help with you on, to try to convene a rally on the steps of the Capitol on Tuesday at 2 p.m. If there are sufficient number of people who sign up in advance, and we know that we have critical mass, and then we know that it can be a legitimate press event that would help to convey to the governor the serious concerns that the kratom community has about this legislation. So you have to go on the protectkratom.org/Louisiana, and you have to sign up, and we will make an evaluation about whether or not that rally we have sufficient number of people available to attend on Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the steps of the state capitol. When you sign up, you'll get additional information. If the governor decides to sign this bill between now and Tuesday at 2 p.m., we obviously will alert everyone who has signed up that we've canceled the rally, because it would have no specific reason for us to be there if this is cooked and we have to look to next year to try to overturn that ban. So please, everyone who can sign up to participate in the rally, has an interest and is able to attend, do that, and then we'll be able to make an assessment as to whether the rally is a is something that we can pull off and that would show a significant number of people that would convey to the media and to the governor that this is something that needs to be looked at. Now, here's going to be the toughest part of all of this, and that is that in our communications going forward on the recommendation for Governor Landry to veto this bill is that we cannot express specific criticism of legislators, even the sponsors, even though they deserve it. It is simply not politic for us to be in a position where we are going to criticize specific legislators, because all that will do is to reinvigorate their opposition to us, and we simply don't want to trigger that kind of emotional reaction along the way. We also cannot engage of criticism, despite their deserving it, by the Louisiana Department of Health. They are wrong on the science. They have made representations that are completely incorrect. But again, they work for and are part of the executive branch, and the governor will not take kindly to the criticism that we would level against an agency that he oversees. So we've got to be very careful about the description, and everyone should be very careful in your communications with the governor not to be pointedly criticizing specific legislators or the legislature in general, nor the Department of Health in this, but rather stick to the question about whether the correct policy decision was made in this particular case. I would also strongly encourage people not to call the state of Louisiana names. That will not win us any friends either. I have already seen some commentary saying it's a backwoods state. What did you expect? And that kind of very negative characterization of the state of Louisiana will not serve our purpose now, nor will it for the future, because as we are doing and in the process of seeing it play out in Rhode Island, there are opportunities to overturn a ban. And if the governor does sign this, we're going to be back next year fighting to get that's Louisiana's ban on kratom lifted, and hopefully because it will be a more informed judgment. What I've said up until now, you could look back and say, well, wait a minute, you were very critical from the American Kratom Association's position and from the other groups about the specific sponsors and the arguments being made by specific legislators. We were. But that was while this bill was being battled back and forth, and we did our best to try to expose weaknesses in both the arguments and the motives that these were being done. But now we're in a completely different setting that we have to follow. So that's the recommendation that I'm making to you to do this. So the specific takeaways, and then we'll go to questions if there are any. The specific takeaways are, number one, if you will go to our website and sign the petition and get everyone in your social media networks to sign that petition. So we need as many people as we can. And secondly, to go to the website and sign up to tell us whether you can participate in person at the rally. We need to have a head count to determine whether or not it's a viable strategy for us to hold that rally as we go forward. So that's the key part of that. And in the chat, you will see the actual link to the website that I'm talking about. It's protectkratom.org/Louisiana, and you can access both the petition and the sign up for the rally. I cannot even tell you how critical this is, that we try to fight back here in Louisiana. And you know, these are always tricky things. We sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. We haven't lost in a long time, and this is a good reminder that we cannot let our guard down. We cannot rely on other people to do this. We can't have the fatigue that we've seen set in over the last couple of years, nor can we have the complacency dictate going forward that we've seen, where some people say, "Oh, well, we always win." This is a wake-up call of enormous proportion, and we can't afford to let this decision by Louisiana, if the governor signs it, to become the predicate for pharmacy boards across the country and other states to be empowered in order to pass these bans. So this is critically important for us as we move forward. I'll go to the questions and answers, and we'll get through these, and then we can have an open discussion. If anybody wants to, just rather than ask a question, we can describe, exactly maybe some of the strategies. Adam asked, guess we know how they do things in Louisiana now. Yeah, we do. Do we know how much pull these lawmakers have with the governor? Uh, I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that they have significant pull. And I think that the overwhelming vote, which is veto proof, is going to compel the governor to sign this bill, unless we can convince him that the information that was relied upon by the legislators was incorrect and therefore warrants the appointment of a special commission in order to study the safety profile of kratom. So that's our pathway. It is a narrow pathway. It is one that has significant odds against it, but is one we have to play out in order to make this work. Misty asked if they can do a super motion like Colorado did. This legislative process is now concluded. It is with the governor. There are no legislative options that can be applied here. They're going to look to whether the governor vetoes this bill. And if he does, it is likely the legislature will try to override the veto. And that is going to then depend on whether there's an acceptance of the argument that we're asking the governor to embrace, which is that there was inaccurate information that was used. So that's essentially where we are. Daniel asked, where does the 325,000 figure come from? Excellent question. There was an assessment made in a research project done by Oliver Grundman and other researchers. Oliver's with the University of Florida, and they did an assessment of the number of people who have used kratom. And among the adult population in the United States, they estimated there was a 9.1% utilization of kratom. We then took the adult populations in each of the states, allocated across that 9.1%, and based it on the state populations, and came up with an estimate, and that's what it is an estimate because we don't have any specific sales data, that there are 325,000 some odd people that are kratom consumers in the state of Louisiana. Based on conversations that I've had with vendors, we think that's a pretty good number. It could be a little higher, a little lower, but I think it's a good estimate. Misty asked, what happens if HB 253, which is the KCPA, were to pass? Well, then that creates a real problem, but there doesn't appear to be a pathway to get it extricated out of its current hold pattern in the Appropriations Committee. But if it did get out and it did get passed, then the governor could make a choice, and he couldn't obviously sign both. So that would be an interesting conundrum for him to have, and it would be great for us if it were possible. But when you look at the vote totals and you look at the way that the members, the sponsors of the bill behaved and the way that they responded to questions, for example, on the House side, the House sponsor carrying the bill for the Senate sponsor, when asked the question about synthetics, she goes, there is no such thing as a kratom synthetic product. That gives you an idea of the depth of the deliberate ignoring of scientific facts. So it's a very troublesome thing, and it is unlikely, in my opinion, that it's possible for the KCPA HB 253 to pass, given the fact they've already passed both houses with this particular situation that we're in, where the bill has been passed that bans kratom. Ronald asked, is there any preliminary conversation with the Louisiana governor to feel him out on this? We have had our lobbying teams, and we've had people that are close to the governor reach out, and we do not have a definitive answer on this. This is a political issue for a governor who's very ambitious, and he doesn't want to cross the legislature if there's not a very powerful reason to do so. And this is what we've got to make our case to as we go along here. Not the odds are not with us. Wednesday asked, will sending in proven science studies help, or be more of a they are wrong criticism in your opinion? The way that the body of scientific evidence was characterized by the sponsors in the bill, and this is a great question, Wednesday, to ask, they ignored it. You had not only the actual scientific evidence that was sent in the form of the published peer-reviewed articles, you had Dr. McCurdy, who testified before the Senate, and you had Dr. Henningfield and Dr. Smith, all world-renowned kratom scientists, and they were disregarded. The dismissive attitude that the Senate sponsor had towards these scientists was incredibly disrespectful. He mocked them for not being medical doctors, and even when Dr. Henningfield pointed out, and he did so respectfully, that he trained medical doctors in substance abuse issues, it had no impact on Senator Morris. It was a very disappointing exchange, and the bias that was exhibited by both the House and the Senate sponsors was incredible. But I think that building a record, and in this case, providing to the governor, which we're going to do, the peer-reviewed published articles with a commitment that we will support a independent commission receiving testimony from these world-renowned scientists, hopefully will persuade the governor that he should accept that option. But I think it's one of those things where now we're building the legislative record as opposed to trying to persuade members who've already made their decision along the way. I'm hopeful that we are going to be in a position that the governor will listen, and that would then trigger some reflection by the members of the Louisiana legislature on whether or not they made a decision that was based on bad information and science, and that would cause them to get to a number that would be that would not justify a veto override. That's our only hope in this particular situation as we go forward. When Bryson asked if there's any specific term or things to say when I call the governor's office, I think there are two things. You're going to get a very limited amount of time, but you want to say, kratom helps me. It saves, if it's, whatever your correct characterization, saves my life or makes my life so much better, improves the quality of my life. And secondly, the governor should veto this bill because it criminalizes the Louisiana kratom consumers. And that is an egregious outcome along the way. And I think that's the most important thing. Adam asked, are we in contact with the governor's office? We have our lobbyists reaching out to the governor's staff. We have friends of the governor reaching out to the governor himself, and we're doing everything possible to do that. Stephen asked, how should we argue that the information the legislature had was wrong or defective without unnecessarily criticizing the parties? Well, this is a tricky balance that we have without mentioning the names of the sponsors, without specifically naming the individuals who had the colloquies on the floor. We simply say that there's one thing in this whole equation that is instructive, and that is we haven't had a ban in 9 years. And now all of a sudden we have one. And what's the one thing that has changed? Well, you have the entrance of very dangerous synthesized and semi-synthesized products, which are being used as the basis for the arguments being made. And they have mischaracterized kratom, and they've done this by taking 7-hydroxymetrogenine and other synthesized products, pseudodoxil, and now more creative permutations of that. And that's what we got to convince the governor that wrong target. This was all based on synthetic products and the correct way to do this. And we think an independent commission would identify and be able to recommend specific strategies against those things. So we're walking a fine line when it comes to not criticizing specific members. Our effort to encourage a veto obviously is a criticism embedded in that request, but we don't want to name specific individuals along the way. Amanda asked, how can we stop the large dollar donations to the United Way and others against kratom? This is a broader question, but there is a significant amount of federal money which is given to anti-drug groups, and United Way is one of them because they sponsor as a way to get money. They sponsor these anti-drug programs, and they have made kratom into one of their targets, and it's unfair. It is a huge step forward when President Trump announced last Friday that he had an executive order that is going to shake up the basis upon which the FDA came to their conclusions about kratom. It is going to require them to account for how they did it. We know that they did not follow the Administrative Procedures Act. We know they didn't have the legitimate science to draw the conclusions that are up on the FDA and kratom website. And we think that website's coming down. And we're going to push hard for that. So that, I think, is a step in the right direction. And then as a part of that, we think that we can influence the Congress in the appropriation side to cut the spigot off of this money that's just generally given to these anti-drug groups and limit what they can do that's not based on that same good science that President Trump's executive order requires going forward. Bobby asked, do you know why a fiscal note was not attached to SB 154? And what is the target deadline date for the rally registration? So the two questions there. I don't know why there was not a fiscal note. I assume that that was horsed up within the legislative leadership and they just decided to decline it. I've not seen the fiscal note if it was produced. The target deadline for the rally registration, we are going to keep the registration open through the weekend. We will make a decision on Sunday as to whether or not we have a critical mass in order in terms of people that can attend. We will then watch the clock in terms of what the governor's doing. And if he vetoes the bill before we can do the rally on Tuesday, then of course we'll inform everyone who's registered that we can that we're going to obviously cancel that rally. So that's the best timeline I can give you. It's a crazy situation we're in, obviously. Excuse me. Carrie asked, how can we form a super strong power community on X as we had in 2016? Well, we didn't have X in 2016. We had one of the most amazing grassroots organizing kinds of activities known to man. I mean, you had vendors who were unified, who were informing their customers how they had to sign the petition on the We the People petition on the White House website, how they had to contact their congressional people and ask them to sign the letter that was going to the DEA telling them not to schedule kratom. But the fact that we are in a better position in terms of tools that we can use, we ought to be able to empower people. But I'll speak candidly here. I think that the fatigue in the advocacy community has been contributed by our success in defeating these multiple bans over the last 8 or 9 years. I think that there's a general fatigue of some of the really great advocates that have been around, and they said, "Oh well, I don't have to do anything because we always win." And they don't understand, those that take that attitude do not understand we always win only because of the grassroots. The public policy and the science arguments can only take us so far, but what cashes in for a legislator are their constituents. And that's where we really need to reinvigorate and have that power community that we had back in 2016, and using tools like X and others are important. I encourage everyone to go to the protectkratom.org and sign up and participate actively, and that's a good start for us. And then we can keep it moving forward. Berlin asked, could it be a good point to bring up the weight penalty either in court or to the governor? I take 5 grams daily, where the lower fine penalty limit here in Louisiana was set at 20 grams. 7-OH pills weigh, I'm guessing, 0.5 grams each. So the really bad stuff can have between 40 to 80 pills on hand for the same penalty. I get this. There's no perfect solution to this in the current situation we're in, other than to make the point that to the governor that we're being criminalized, and whatever the specific weight limits are that trigger the levels of penalty, it's still true that you're being criminalized. And I think that's the simplest way to do it. And we can make the argument, if the governor agrees to appoint an independent commission, we can go and explain exactly what those tiers ought to be and when penalties ought to kick in for violative products that are on the marketplace. And I think, and then Berlin asked, how can the legislature say that it's fair to consumers or just the leaf and addicts of 7-OH don't have to worry about only getting a fine, as no one has that many pills on hand? That's a great point about the volume in a package and that kind of thing. The correct policy on 7-OH is that there should never be a product available with 7H that has a greater than 1 milligram serving size, because that's the level at which you can never exceed with naturally occurring 7OH metabolite in the drying process of the kratom leaves. The battle that we have to take to 7OH is an enormous challenge. And I can tell you that another thing that every consumer should do is they ought to say that if you go into a kratom vendor store and they're selling 7OH, walk out. Do not purchase kratom products from a store that's selling the 7OH, because that's what's killing us in this legislative theater right now. And if you are buying online, same deal. Speak with your money and your purchasing power and tell these vendors that you're not going to play if they are engaging in the sale of products that are bringing down and inevitably will cause a ban nationally on in the United States if we keep going here. John asked how many protesters you think would be needed to give the governor cause to veto. I think that we've got to have at least 35 or 40 people there on the Capitol steps. That will give it critical mass for the media. And when the governor's people are going to look at the media, and we need at least that number of people in order to show that there's some power here. Love to have many more, but this is just the reality of the situation, and we need at least that number, and that'll be the cut point of whether we can get that number as to whether we hold the rally. Michael asked, if this passes in Louisiana, will it have a domino effect in other states? I feel it was rigged from the get-go. This bill was rigged, but it's the reality of the legislative process we work in. It will have a domino effect if we allow it to do so. I think that what will offset it is the very timely decision by the Rhode Island legislature, and assuming the Senate follows suit to what the House did today, then it's a one-for-one trade-off. And we can explain what happened in Louisiana. And we can explain then, perhaps in more harsh terms, what the legislative leadership did in Louisiana and the motives by which that they were impacted by it. So we'll have to see how that goes and work on it. Carrie asked, can we use re-election as a reason for them to listen? Every tool that a advocacy group uses in order to persuade a legislature, sometimes it comes down to penalizing people that make bad decisions, and of course that's the complexity of campaigns and the popularity of an individual senator or representative in their district is oftentimes only dictated by how much people know. And so maybe kratom won't be that big of an issue. But I can tell you that when it comes down to a politician being exposed for their conduct that has nothing to do with the good public policy, but rather because they're beholden to some special interest, then that equation changes. And so that's something to look at, but that's always after the fact. And so it's something to look at, because the only way you change things that are going the wrong direction is to look at every one of those situations. Daniel asked, are there videos or transcripts of the debate and testimony in the Senate and House? Yes. I believe they're up on our website. If not, we'll get them up tomorrow. We have a transcript of the House colloquy, so we'll share that as well. It's clearly nuts what they did. I mean, to hear the discussions back and forth and the false information that was provided, which is the basis I think we're going to push hard against hoping the governor will veto it. Nicholas asked, why was the House vote such a supermajority? Why were they so zealous and clapping at the end of it? Have people become complacent and did not email or call because this hasn't been a state prohibited since 17? Look, it's hard to unwind all of this. We know that the Louisiana Department of Health partnered with these addiction recovery centers to make this recommendation, so they had what they thought was good science on their side. They were wrong, but it was false science. And then you had a couple of impassioned members who believed that they had constituents whose families were impacted by what they believed was a kratom death. And that, of course, is why we have to educate these legislators. And it is going to have a horrible effect on us. We're going to have to be digging out from state pharmacy boards and from other states that will try to mirror what they did in Louisiana. So we've got to build as strong a legislative record as we can. Uh, and uh, and there's no question, I think there's a level of complacency, but I've got to say that we rallied. Maybe it was too late, but we ended up getting a lot of calls and emails into the offices, but it didn't have the impact. So maybe this thing was baked before the legislative session, and we just got caught in the vortex of that. But we will learn from this, and we're going to obviously redouble our efforts going forward. And uh, this is as good a wake up call as we can get, and we're going to have to respond to it. And there's no question. Misty says we don't need more Marshall Prices or Shana Browns. We don't. We don't need a criminalized situation. We also don't need a black market because what Louisiana did is instill into that marketplace a black market of completely and totally unregulated drugs. And they are going to be kratom products that are so bad because they'll accept the risk, where legitimate vendors are not going to be marketing their products in the state of Louisiana because of the ban and because they act and play by the rules. Um, so kratom consumers will be criminals if they travel through Louisiana, correct? Yes, if they have the volume of kratom that exceeds what the limits are, they will absolutely uh, be subject to those penalties. Bobby asked, are any veteran groups that you may know of that reach out to the governor? We're fully on that. John Shinholzer is on here. He's a Marine. We've got plenty of veterans. We're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at this, and so we'll definitely do that. But the best veteran is a Louisiana veteran, and that's where we've got to identify and have those individuals contact the governor along the way. Carrie says, I'm not for kratom in its natural form, not all these Mitra 7 products I see filling the shelves of shops. Well, here's the fact. A properly formulated and adequately labeled kratom product, if it meets the GMP standards and product formulation standards, meaning that it uses extracts, food grade solvent extracts. So you don't have a super concentrated product and you don't have a product that has a lot of the artifacts of a impermissible solvent in the product that makes it chemically unsafe. You should be able to be on the marketplace. Now, there's arguments that can be made about some products that push the envelope. I think the issue is it doesn't matter where you buy kratom or what form it comes in if the product meets the standards for FDA approved guidelines for GMPs and product formulation standards embedded in what we call our model Kratom Consumer Protection Act. So I think that's something that we just have to concentrate on and try to push. Dustin says, if these representatives were so blatantly and intentionally disrespectful to the experts and their citizens, why can't they be met with the same energy? If they can criticize their own citizens but can't take what they dish out, they picked the wrong job. I agree with you, Dustin. There's no question about that. And now the question is, how do we manage the debate in this period of time when we're trying to convince the governor to veto this bill? And I was only suggesting that it will not profit us to be super critical of individuals or the agencies, but rather talk about the bad science that was articulated and upon which the governor can evaluate and say, hey, these legislators received bad information and they simply did not understand that the information they had was incorrect or insufficient. Kurt says it might be a good strategy to mention the number of states that have chosen regulation as part of our message to the governor. It absolutely is. We've got the draft of the letter. We're going to point out that 17 states have passed the KCPA. We'll point out what Rhode Island just did today. That'll be very good in terms of approaching that. And Bobby says, being the governor, Lander is very close to Trump. He should veto it because of Trump's executive order. From what it seems, we should try to rally Trump. There's no rallying the Trump administration. The president is insulated by layer after layer after layer of people. But what is clear is that his executive order sought to reset the entire scientific equation across the government, including the FDA, where they have to justify exactly what they've done on scientific evidence of various regulations and guidelines that have been issued by the agencies, and that includes the FDA. And so that process is going to be a little different than just saying, here's the defects in the bill, and that the Trump administration agrees with us. We will make the argument in our transmittal letter to the governor that the executive order identifies the weaknesses in the evidence and data that was presented to the legislature, but we can't overstep that and make claims that simply won't pass muster. Ultimately, we hope that President Trump is going to be in our camp. We've gotten encouraging words from the Secretary of HHS about Kratom and his interest in learning more about it. It's a trick bag because the general counsel at HHS that was just named is former Senator Stewart from West Virginia, and he sponsored a ban bill in West Virginia that we had to beat him on. So these are not easy things sometimes to sort out. Carrie says donations are greatly needed to fight going forward. Monthly donations, hopefully some match donations, will be a huge factor in our success. I can tell you that the assault on Kratom in this past legislative season has significantly depleted the resources we have to fight these battles. We're doing the best we can with limited resources, and so anything that anyone can do to help us is obviously greatly appreciated. These are battles that require funding, and it's very difficult for us sometimes to overcome that. Mary said, "Do you think as a retailer, the loss of revenue is a valid point to use, and would it be impactful?" This is a little bit of a mixed bag here, Mary, because the argument that our opponents use is it doesn't matter how much money some dangerous drug can draw to the marketplace, we got to protect our citizens. That's their argument. What we want to argue is that properly formulated and adequately labeled Kratom products can make a viable contribution and do make a contribution to the Louisiana economy. So we're fighting that back and forth about, oh, well, those that claim that Kratom is dangerous, therefore it should be banned and forget the revenue, are what we're fighting against. So that's part of the issue that we're fighting with. Misty gives the advice that don't stoop down to the level that our opposition group does. I agree with that. I mean, you see what the unhinged kind of statements that are made by the anti-Kratom forces and the absolute false information that they provide. It's heartbreaking, but we can't stoop, as Misty correctly points out, to that level. So that's something that we're obviously having to work with. I shout out to Kurt Bramble, by the way. He made a comment here. Kurt's recovering from heart surgery as well, and is a champion and a warrior for us, and we wish him well on his recovery. I think he'll be back in the saddle here pretty quickly, and back on the road with us fighting it. But Kurt, thank you very much for your being that champion along the way. There was one question that I passed by because it didn't specifically relate to Louisiana, but I can go back and try to capture it. Just give me 1 second. Well, Jeff added that he wasn't aware there was any fatigue. Are folks not taking these bans seriously? What changed? There is fatigue, or there's complacency, because people just think we win all the time, and so we don't have to worry about it. Other people do it for us, and that's the problem. So there you have it. So Stephen asked, can you elaborate on Massachusetts? There has been no movement since the Joint Judiciary Committee on the bans, and no movement on the Health Committee for regulation. How long is it usually before any vote or movement happens in Massachusetts? Usually, they're a 2-year session, and so getting them to move is very, very difficult. And they operate at their pace. We have some ongoing discussions with one of the KCPA sponsors to amend the bill that they filed and align it more with the model KCPA. So that's a difficult process, but we're working hard in Massachusetts, and hopefully we'll get them into the fold. So we can stop here. Again, thank you to all of you who have joined here. The tasks are clear. Rally all of your contacts, everybody you can, to sign that petition that we'll give to the governor as soon as you can. We need to get that petition in his hands. And what we'll probably do is go with what we've got at the time at which we transmit the letter, and then we'll do updates. So we want to keep populating that petition page and get everybody to sign up for it. And obviously, we need you to evaluate whether you would be available to physically come to Baton Rouge on Tuesday at 2 p.m. to the state capitol, on the steps of the capitol, when we'll hold a rally and a press conference about the encouraging the governor to veto the ban. So that's the wrap up for this. Again, appreciation to all of the advocates out there. I know the Kratom Gals people are here. I know that Misty and Jennifer are here working with a live stream that they put up on a very popular platform, TikTok. And so we're going to continue to work cooperatively together. There are always going to be situations where there are conflicts within the Kratom community. Sometimes it's about products. Sometimes it's about whether the tactics and strategies used are the appropriate ones. And sometimes it's even about advocacy groups pulling each other in different directions. But there never has been a time since 2016 when we need to unify and rally and rally each other to come to the same uh, advocacy effort in order to protect this plant and to allow people the freedom to make their choices, informed choices about what products they use for their health and well-being. And that's, of course, our goal. And we remain consistent, and from the American Kratom Association's viewpoint, that should be the baseline for all decisions that are made on public policy. Thank you to everyone who has joined in this battle, who continues to be vigilant. Now you've got to motivate your friends and do everything you can in order to get onto that website, www.protectkratom.org/Louisiana, and let's rally to do it. And hopefully we'll be able to hold this rally on Tuesday. I hope to see as many of you who can do that there in Baton Rouge, and we'll just keep pushing to get this done. Thanks to everyone for being here.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, so as he was talking about everything going down, I went and posted everywhere about where people should sign up to say yes, that you could show up at the Louisiana State Capitol on June 3rd at 2 p.m. There's a part on the protectkratom.org/Louisiana link where you go down just a little bit, and there's a part right there where you can sign up.
But anybody from Louisiana, or even if you're not from Louisiana and you can just be there that day,
Yeah.
that would be huge. That would be huge.
You know me, I'm gonna try. So they're gonna do a head count. What do you say, Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday night.
Sunday. So they'll do a head count. If there's enough people that signed up, I will try my damnedest to go. Me and my cousin Carrie. So
I really hope I hope that there's enough people that sign up. I really do.
I do too.
I mean, I know there's a lot of consumers, especially on social media, that are in Louisiana. So hopefully they'll be able to make it.
Man.
But I mean, this is like the only other option to not have your freedom taken away.
You know how SB 154 was extremely fast tracked. So now I'm wondering if, because our little birdies, our little hater birdies, are going to go get back into Senator Morris's ear. They're going to be like, oh no, the advocates are going to have a rally. You better hurry up and sign that damn bill, Governor Landry.
And I mean, I know what Mac is saying about, talking bad about
Mm-hmm.
people. It's just frustrating to know that, the legislation got up there and lied. Like, that is just, it's not right.
Straight up lied.
I'm going to try and stop. I'm going to try and stop because I have been saying it.
I mean, me too. We sat there and watched it live when Senator Morris chaired his own bill, and he belittled Dr. Jack Henningfield and Dr. Kirsten Smith.
Yep.
It was like, it makes you fly out of your damn chair. Like, why would you even, what?
I've never seen any, I don't know. It was just you've got to be a real big. I'm trying not
SOB.
to. Yeah, I was trying to be a little bit nicer, but you got to think highly of yourself to treat people like that. Like it's just wrong.
It's like, wow. So if you guys are from Louisiana and you're watching this, and you could put me in touch with like kratom consumers that are veterans, like any AFW, is it AFWs? You have to, those veteran places, town halls type
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Veterans would be amazing. I know there's veterans.
yeah.
There's Paul, and then the other guy that
It was on the news just a few.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's the one who went and testified at the hearings too. He's another IED blast survivor. So I know there's him. There's a guy that I talked to, or I did a video reply on TikTok today. He's a veteran, but I'm not sure if he's in Louisiana or not. I think he is. I don't know. But man,
I just hope that we can get the numbers there.
what about the motorcycle clubs?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I was saying, like my dad, when he stopped drinking alcohol, he was like part of a motorcycle club that was just like
Mhm.
Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was. I mean, they had a great time. You know what I mean? So I mean, somebody needs to start something like that for kratom
Yeah.
consumers. Yeah.
Because, we know whole leaf kratom doesn't, impair your driving.
Yep.
So,
They can drive to the kava bars and stuff across the country. That'd be cool.
man,
Have like kratom leaf leather jackets and
I
stuff.
know.
Shit. All right, we might just do it one day. I just ain't getting my ass on no motorcycle though.
Man.
But yeah, I mean anybody, even in surrounding states. I know Louisiana has like Mississippi is pretty close.
Yeah.
Is it Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
So, yeah, if I go, I will go to my cousin again in Texas, and then we will drive to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So that'll give me, first, because of kratom, it would give me another opportunity to go visit my cousin.
Yep.
Because we had a blast. When we went to Arkansas,
Yeah.
man, and you were with that? Well, you weren't driving with us, but
I still had fun in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I did because
Yeah.
of kratom. I would have never made it that far doing that because of kratom.
And
Like,
what was that? It was like 2.5 hours for you too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2.5 hours.
That was about the same time frame for me and my cousin to go from Texas to Little Rock.
And even though we didn't win, it was worth it. Just knowing that I was there and we were there for Julian. Just because of Marshall. There
Because of
should
Marshall
never be
Price.
another Marshall Price ever.
Ever. Or
And if
Shayna
this
Brown.
if this keeps going the way it is, there's going to be a couple more Marshall Prices. Who knows how many Marshall Prices in Louisiana that pop up? That's scary to think about.
But like the video I made today on TikTok, this was all done strategically, and it was done because of the sheriffs and the rehab and recovery industry. So it is all about money.
Yeah. It always is.
And my story, I will always and forever shout my stories from the rooftop. God damn it, what the hell?
I was trying to share everything, and I don't know. We can't see TikTok comments. I just remembered that, so I got off of there
Oh, yeah, I'm fixing to go on my TikTok right now.
just to make sure there's nobody asking any questions or anything.
I don't know why they don't allow the TikTok comment.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't care, because I'm glad that we were able to figure out how to live
Yeah.
on TikTok.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hey,
Thank you,
Samantha.
Jesse.
Yeah, Samantha, I posted up all that info about, if you can make it to the Louisiana State Capitol on Tuesday, June 3rd at 2 p.m., the AKA wants a head count. And so they're going to allow it to go over the weekend. And then on Sunday, they'll decide whether or not, if they're going to fly in and get there. I'm going to try. So if they get enough people that sign up to go, I am going to try my hardest to get there.
Yeah.
I crowdfunded for Arkansas. I will crowdfund to get my ass down to Louisiana State Capitol.
Abu Ali Mustafa, still love that username. It was Mac just telling everybody, like, if you know any Louisiana, if you know, if you know any Louisiana consumers, they're trying to have a rally on Tuesday at 2 p.m. in Baton Rouge at the Capitol. So they're going to take a head count Sunday and see how many people sign up. And if there's enough, to have like media coverage and everything like that on Tuesday, they're going to try and show up and hopefully get the governor to veto the bill that was passed, the ban bill.
Yeah, hope that's the only Hail Mary we have right now for Louisiana. That's it.
Yeah.
Is the governor vetoing that bill. I can only do so much on my side. I've tagged that governor on X and Facebook. I don't think he's on TikTok. I didn't even go look, but I don't know. But I've done, I kind of became like a hemorrhoid to him. I'm tagging him a lot. Like
Yeah.
a lot.
A lot.
A lot. So I don't know if he's seeing my stuff or not, but I don't know,
Yeah, when I read one of his tweets the other day talking about putting science first, I'm like, well, let's put science first and veto this.
Yeah, exactly. Because he ain't following the science on this.
None of his constituents or his legislators are.
No.
Anyway, well, I guess we're going to get off unless anybody has any more questions or anything. I don't see any.
I try to, to me, I'm like, because I survived 11 years of active, let me get this out. I survived 11 years of active addiction. I know for a fact that whole leaf kratom powder will save somebody.
Yeah.
I was in the depths of hell for 11 years straight. And kratom was that helping hand that pulled me out of that depression pit that I was in, and it helped me work on my whys of addiction. So today, almost June 25th, will be 6 years. So today, 6 years later, I can confidently say I'm a recovered fucking addict. And then I got, like I said, I went and I'm now a menace over there on Reddit. Now these people are like, if you're a recovered addict now, why are you still taking it? I can't stand that. I cannot stand comments like that.
I went over there today and saw that.
Did you?
Yeah. And I'm like, that just, it bothers me.
It's like I will forever be a chronic pain person. I'm not a patient no more because I no longer fuck you doctors. I don't have to go back to doctors. But I can't pray my pain away.
Yep.
I will always forever need something to help me manage my chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. And I choose plants over pills. I advocate for plants over pills.
Same.
I'm just trying to find my people.
Yeah.
You don't like it? You want to keep going, doctor? Go ahead. Go the fuck
Move
ahead.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your deal.
So
but yeah, I mean, every day kratom can save somebody.
Yeah.
Every day.
And we got amazing advocates. I'm not the only one that will advocate outside of my own state.
Yep.
Who's ever willing and down and able and committed to do things, I will hook it up. But
there ain't no community like the kratom community.
Right. Some 99% of the kratom community is bomb as hell, but you got those little 1%ers that are just fucking
every group has those, that 1%.
Yeah. And if you look at it like that, I guess I was that whole 1% of the population that got addicted to the FDA approved pain pills, so I was a menace to them unintentionally, inadvertently, but now, and that was another fucking thing I saw on Reddit, I'm like, on Facebook, under one of Claudia's posts, I'm like, I will continue to advocate for CPPs to have access to their FDA approved pain pills, even though I fucked up
Yeah.
You will never see me get up on here and talk shit about, oh, they should take the pain pills away because I was a dick dad.
It's quality of life. That's what we advocate for. Like, it's quality of life. At the end of the day, whatever you choose, go for it. Like, you should have the freedom to do that.
Nobody knows your quality of life better than you do.
Yep.
So yeah, you won't see me get up on here and talk about I need to let me get some of that opioid latte money. Nah, fuck you.
Yeah.
It was a me problem.
Exactly. Yeah. That's with a lot of people though. A personal accountability, they have issues.
They lack
with
it.
that. Yeah.
And if you still lack a personal accountability, you still got some healing to do.
Yep.
And I can't help you with that.
Yep.
So
it's nice to be healed though.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that Jennifer and that Misty is a long time ago. We were reborn.
Definitely reborn.
Yeah.
I know we were just talking about this the other day that I have to dig deep from my memories, my active addiction memories. Like that's how healed I am. It's like I got to dig. It's like I said, it's just like active addiction Misty is like a galaxy away.
Well, it's like, and when you're in active addiction, like, that's all you think about is like you got that guilt every day. And that's part of why you do what you do. You know what I'm saying? To like mask the guilt and mask the pain.
Yep.
But now when you got to like dig deep to even remember, and it just feels like it's not even the same person, like it's another lifestyle, like you was reincarnated or something. You know what I mean? It's a good feeling, It's
like
a good
Tupac
feeling.
said, I'm back reincarnated. Because of Holy Kratom.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, but yeah, we can wrap this up.
All right. Well, I hope to see everybody in Louisiana. Sign up. Sign up.
Do you plan on going?
I wish, but I can't. I wish I can't.
All right.
I got the house stuff,
I know. I guess I should. But so y'all just keep coming back, checking up my Facebook posts, my TikTok videos, what do you say? Sunday he'll do the head count, and then they'll figure out if they're going to do the whole rally on Tuesday. I'm hoping that the governor wouldn't sign it on Monday. Cause shit.
I mean, you never know, but
or tomorrow.
Yeah. Or tonight. Like Mac was saying, like he could do it at any time.
Anytime. He said he's technically got 10 days to do it, but he could from now until any time, till 10 days.
Yeah.
So, but okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching the live stream.
Have a good night, everyone.